ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So in the last class we were studying the 27th verse of the ninth chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. The 27th verse of the 9th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. So as we were saying that it's a very significant verse. It actually speaks of the sanam and the sanam bonam of the entire spiritual journey. That if we can follow these instructions as has been spoken of in this verse, I think there is nothing else required. That's the ultimate thing required for our spiritual journey. So what was that mantra? What was that verse? Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. So yat karoshi, whatever we do. Yadashnashi, yat ashnasi. Ashnasi means to eat. Whatever you eat. Yajjuhosi, whatever you offer in the sacrifice. In the olden days, it was it was all the fire sacrifice. Nowadays, it's in the form of the worship in your family, in your house, whatever that shrine you may have there, or you may go to the temple. You offer flowers, incense, fruits. So that also can be considered as this yajjuhosi. So whatever worship you are doing, dadasiyat, whatever gift you are donating, you are offering, yat tapasyasi, whatever you are endeavoring in life. Tapasya in a specific sense of course means to do some penances like fasting, taking some vows and fasting, or doing some japa from the morning till the evening, purascharana, all those things, they are tapas. But day-to-day life, even when I am endeavoring for something, the student is studying. For a student, chhatranam adhyayanam tapah. The idea of tapas is actually means heat. When heat is generated, it is generated through friction. So in our day-to-day life, so that what it indicates, that whenever there is a friction, whenever I'm trying to move, so there is an opposing force that doesn't allow the movement to go on unendingly. And that's the friction. So I have to work against it, and as a result, a heat is generated. In our day-to-day life, we will find that the friction is there in the form of procrastination, in the form of comfort seeking. So we have to find that from our childhood till we are adult, throughout our life, you will find that if we have to achieve something, we have to work against all those negativities. And that's the friction, that's the idea of the heat which generates from the friction. That's the idea of tapas. So whatever endeavor I'm doing, I'm trying to work against all those negativities and achieve something positive. That is all tapas. So yat tapasyasi. So whatever endeavor you are having in your life, all those things you do with the idea of offering to me, to the divine and divine alone. Mat arpanam. So in the last class we were studying this sloka, this verse. Now, how this is the practice which is the sanam bonam of the entire spiritual journey. Nothing else is required. So now, let us just try to understand the state in which we are at present. What is the state in which we are? We find there are various samskaras. Some are vyakta, some are manifested, some are avyakta, not manifested. How we have gathered these samskaras, how we have gathered. So in the scriptures, it is indicated that it is because of ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of our real nature. That I am the Atman, I am the conscious principle. My existence need not be substantiated by anything else. I exist by my own right through eternity. I am the Trikal Avadhita Satya. I am the truth whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present, future. That's the Trikal. Trikal Avadhita. Uninterrupted existence in all the phases of time, past, present, future. And that also I exist without any change. There is no change in me, no transformation. The Shara Vikara, the Jayate, Asti, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Nasti. That we, as per our physical existence is concerned, we were born at a certain point of time. That is indicated by the term Jayate. Asti. We will be existing for certain period of time, from my birth to my death. And as long as I exist, at the beginning, I grow. Vardhate. That is the growth. And then a time comes, the growth stops in my middle age. And then first, what will happen? There's some transformation. It's not that immediately I will be aging. The curve at the top appears to be flat for the time being, but the transformations are going on. That's Viparinamat in the middle age. And then the growth leads to that transformation stage, and from that now the decay process starts. Apakshiyate. This Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. Apakshiyate speaks of Jara and Vyadhi. However, we may try, we cannot stop it. We may delay it with all our modern advanced medical science. We may manage it, but we cannot stop it. So that apakshiyate. And then at last, nasti. That we cease to exist. So that speaks of our physical existence. But the scripture is asserting again and again, as per my real nature is concerned, the self, this Shara Vikara is not there. We are all Purana Purusha. The word Purana is very interesting. What the word Purana means? Pura api navaiva. Ever aging, never old. It is like to be in the eternal present. If anything is in the eternal present, the concept of time falls. The concept of time arises only when there is transformation. A certain thing was in a different form, it has transformed to some different form, and then the question of time comes. If something is in eternal present without any transformation, the question of time collapses. So I am that eternal present. I need nothing for the sustenance of my existence. And I am ever fulfilled. That I am in eternal bliss as the Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Sat Swarupa just now we spoke of, that is, exists in all the phases of time, and that also without any transformation. That's what's meant by the word Sat. And what it meant by the word Chit. So actually the Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa is a negation of our limited existence. That I have an idea that I am born, I will die, and I am constantly transforming. To negate that idea, we say you are Sat. Now the idea, a shallow scientist may come and say, yes, what you are saying is true. At last, everything is there as inert matter or at the most energy. Consciousness is a byproduct. Somehow, accidentally, the matter has conglomerated to produce consciousness. So here the scripture is asserting the fact, no. When you take the credentials of the senses as true, that whatever sense is showing, that is truth, then of course you can come to such conclusion. But if you challenge the credential of the senses, that my senses are not the ultimate thing which is the criteria of the truth. There is something which is beyond the senses. And there are many who have gone to that state. The scriptures are the assertions of those rishis. Rishis, who are the rishis? The one who have realized the truth. Those Apta Purusha. They have attained that. And they are asserting that there is something which is beyond the phase of time, and that is always conscious. This consciousness is the only phenomenon. Everything else, epiphenomenon, is a product of that. Consciousness alone exists. The inert matter, the sat, asat, this chit, achit, anything conscious, anything unconscious, whatever I am experiencing in this life, as a foundation, as a basis behind it, it's the consciousness and consciousness alone. And that's our real nature. So it's the negation of the fact that I am inert. I am Chit Swarup, Sat Swarup, Chit Swarup. That's ultimate reality is consciousness. Now again, the doubt may come. Okay, even if I agree that eternally I am that conscious principle. But in this life, how we experience that consciousness? We experience it as a duality. That most of the time we are struggling, we are in dejection, sorrow, and now and then there's a little sunshine, happiness comes. So we are always in this duality, in the crest and the trough of joy and sorrow, happiness and dejection. Are we to exist in that helpless state through eternity? That as if there is no control, sometimes I am happy and most of the time I am dejected, as if I am bound to be in this flow, the way it takes me. So again the scripture is again asserting no, that you are beyond that duality. You are always in eternal peace, tranquility. So this is the assertion of this, that I am that real nature, which is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Now, what has happened? That this story we say again and again, that spiritually we are all narcissistic. Narcissistic. This from where this word narcissistic has came? From a Greek legendary character called Narcissus. This Narcissus was a prince, extremely handsome. But he was highly obsessed by himself, by his own beauty, by his own this beauty. He was so obsessed that he forgot all his responsibilities, all his relations, responsibilities, everything he forgot. He was extremely self-possessed, and he has developed a very peculiar type of obsession. What's that? He will always go to the on the backyard of the palace. There was a huge forest. So he will go to that forest, and there was a reservoir there. That reservoir was very clean, the water was very clean, transparent, and still there was no disturbance. So he will just sit by the side of that reservoir and see his own reflection. And he is to be totally infatuated by that. He will be seeing his own reflection and he is infatuated by it. And one day he got so much infatuated by his own beauty that he thought that reflection to be real. He jumped to embrace his own reflection and he drowned and died. That's the character of Narcissus. And nowadays that's why we use the word narcissistic, that who is extremely self-possessed. He thinks of nothing else, always busy with himself. We call them narcissistic. Spiritually, we are all narcissistic. How? This pure, resplendent self, it got reflected in this Prakriti, in the body-mind complex. I see my own reflection there. And I am infatuated. Oh, that's that resplendent self which is being reflected in the body-mind complex. And I dive, just like Narcissus, I just dive in the body-mind complex. And that's the cause of our death. What is the cause of our death? We can never die. Apparently we have died. Why? Now once I think the reflection to be real, now the echo from the body-mind complex deludes me. Just you will find that what's the echo? When I am standing in front of a mountain, I shout out my name. That echo comes back. I am deluded. I think someone is calling my name from the mountains, isn't it? That's what the echo is. A small child gets deluded. So actually it is I who am shouting. My name is being echoed back, and I think as if someone is calling me. So same thing, the self is asserting again and again, I am eternal, I am ever fulfilled. These are the two things. I am eternal, nothing can annihilate me, and nothing can be the cause of my dejection, sorrow. I am ever fulfilled. Chiratripta, ever fulfilled, ever existent. I am as if asserting that, and from the body-mind complex that is echoed back. I am eternal, I am ever fulfilled. The moment it is echoed back, we are getting deluded. Oh, as if the body-mind complex is saying I am eternal, I am ever fulfilled. That reflection is the ego. From ahankar, from ajnana comes asmita. That is, this reflection, which is constantly saying I am eternal. Even a small microbe that doesn't want to die. Very interesting, even science says that the lower forms of life doesn't have that consciousness. Have you seen any life form, if you try to harm it, it doesn't run away? That reflex is something so natural. So even a small microbe doesn't want to die. So what you will see that in a petri dish, if the microbes are all moving around, you see through the microscope, it appears that as if these are all inanimate objects just having a random motion. And now, just to prove that they are not inanimate, the science teacher, what he does, he puts a drop of nutrient in the center. And immediately you will find the so-called randomly moving particles have gathered direction. They're moving towards it. Why it happens? That consciousness got reflected in that small microbe body, such an insignificant body. And now it thinks I am it. Not only I am it. The reflection from the reflection that echo is coming. You are, and that also you are eternal, and you are ever fulfilled. But I find there are so many things which can harm my body-mind complex. It can annihilate it. Now to fulfill that ego, to respond to that ego, what I am doing? Oh, these are favorable for my body-mind complex. I get drawn towards that nutrient. If instead of nutrient there is some toxin, I move away. So these are the three basic reflexes which we develop from the very inception of life. What is this? From avidya comes asmita. From asmita, from that ego comes raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Raga means attachment. Dvesha, anything which is detrimental for my existence, I develop hatred. And as I develop tremendous love for life, I fear death. That is abhinivesha. So in short, we can say this obsession and the fight and flight response. Obsession speaks of the growth mode. Fight and flight response speaks of the protection. These are the two things. Either I want to grow or I am trying to protect myself. If there is some danger, I want to protect. With this basic thing, the life has started. In Vedanta, evolution is not denied. It's not designed that God has designed the entire creation as it is. No. Evolution do have happened. God has first got involved in that microbe body, and now again and again that is asserting, I want to realize my eternity through this body. because of that ignorance. Now what happens? It is constantly fighting. That I was a single cell, okay. I find that it is not possible for me to fight with the nature quite efficiently to really assert my eternity. So what I do? I conglomerate. I just come together with some other cells. And there is a division of labor. This organizational faculty which we think we as a human have, actually it is there in the nature. We were not aware of it. There is a tremendous organizational capacity in the nature. What the cells have done, just if you study the human body, there are trillions of cells. And they are all having a wonderful organizational capability. There is a wonderful division of labor. That single cell now have conglomerated to this human body, this sophisticated body. These all trillions of cells. Some have specialized in circulation of the blood, which is in these heart cells. Some in your respiration, some digestion, assimilation, some this nervous system. All these trillions of cells, there is a wonderful division of labor. Why? That's because of that initial ignorance. I want to realize the eternity through this body-mind complex, which I think is myself. And this has enabled in this entire process of evolution. As a human being, we have the capacity to realize, oh, it was delusion. Actually, I am always free. I'm always free. Because of my wrong association with the body-mind complex, this entire process of evolution has happened. The only difference between the scientific evolution and the evolution believed by Vedanta is the scientific evolution is a straight line. We go on evolving. But in Vedanta, in our scriptures, the evolution is a cyclic process. From ignorance, the biological evolution started. As a human being, the moment we create that awareness, we develop that awareness, oh, it is delusion, actually I'm always free. Then I go back to my starting point from where I started. I started with ignorance, and my ignorance now has vanished. In wisdom I end. But I am where I am. I have gained nothing, I have lost nothing. I am just the self. This entire evolution process was just like a book to teach me. I was going through these various pages. So now let us come back to this, our verse. Yat karoshi yadashnashi. What's the way out? That when the one who have already realized the self comes and asserts that you are the self, with Shraddha, with faith, I believe him. But does it make any change? I will find no. That this idea, this ignorance is so deeply ingrained. It's just like an alcoholic or a drug addict. He knows very well what is harming him. But can he just leave it? No. So sometimes knowing doesn't mean that immediately you can get rid of the thing which is harming you. You know, your knowledge is there. But this, as you were in that, because of this ignorance, you have developed all this attachment, hatred, fear. You have developed, and it is so ingrained in your psyche. Now it needs a process to come out of it. So detoxify, means go again, just come out of the intoxication. There is a process, and this is the process. Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. So what we are doing? So now, because of ignorance, all these samskaras, you will find now we can easily understand that a small microbe, it may be very simple. That growth mode and the protection mode, we can see that it is going towards the nutrient, it is coming away, running away from the toxin. But this basic thing in the process of evolution has become so complicated, creating so many samskaras. From birth to birth, when we are just transmigrating, we are transmigrating with all these samskaras. And not all of them are vyakta. Many are just hidden. We give some very funny example that if we believe in the process of evolution, Most probably we were some grazing animal in the past birth. Now if samskaras are all there, and for every samskara has its own memory. Just to give an example, if today I'm just going by the street and I just go to a sweetmeat shop, and and just for the first time someone says it's a very nice sweet, any sweet it may be, and you for the first time you taste a particular sweet and you develop a sanskara, taste for it. That sanskara is built because it's not lost. That experience, that taste, now it has become sanskara. Now samskara, how it actually disturbs us, because whatever is stored in our psyche as samskara, whenever it gets favorable circumstances, it comes back as memory. Now most probably after having that particular sweet dish, now again I'm busy with my life. I forgot for days together, it's just hidden in my psyche. It's not that I've forgotten, it's there, it's hidden. Now again I am passing by that sweetmeat shop, and immediately it comes back as memory. And that memory, what will do? It will impel me. From this memory comes karma. Now the moment the sanskara is coming back as memory, it forces us to action. Now I will just run towards it. I will just go, try to buy and have it, isn't it? So that's how the samskaras are all ingrained. And as we were saying, that certain samskaras are there in our psyche, but this birth is not favorable for those samskaras, so that memory won't come back, and naturally the actions which results from that memory, that won't happen in this life, but they are there. Just as the example I were giving, that if I was a grazing animal, the samskara is there, that I liked the grass, but as a human, seeing the grass, do I salivate? No. What has happened? Because for the human birth, that samskara is not favorable. Its memory remains hidden, but it is there. It is there. If again I am born as a grazing animal, then that samskara will become vyakta, will manifest. So now we will understand the condition of our psyche. It's full of samskaras. We don't know how many samskaras are there. We think only those which have manifested, I have to deal with them and then I am liberated. No. When you have got rid of the manifested desires by your will or resolution, maybe you may achieve. You will find there are other samskaras which will again pop up. So what's the way out? Can I get rid of these samskaras one by one to again realize, to get established in myself? No. So my personality has become like what? That we can give that example. We are our personality is like a wheel, where the hub of the wheel is our ego, asmita, or ahankara. And all these samskaras are like the spikes, innumerable such spikes. If you break one of the spike, still the wheel is intact, because so many other spikes are there to keep it intact. So just breaking spike one by one is not the solution. As we gave that, most probably just related that incident in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. In the time of Sri Ramakrishna, the Howrah Bridge in Calcutta was not there. It was built much later. And in those days, they used to cross the Ganges by floating bridges. How they constructed those floating bridges? This innumerable boats. There will be innumerable boats all tied to each other. And again, these boats will be anchored to both the shores with innumerable chains. So now it cannot move. It will be just moving within a very short distance. But yeah, there is some movement, but it cannot simply flow off. And it can be used as a bridge. That's how in the days when the bridges were not constructed, these floating bridges were the only means of crossing the river. These floating bridges were there. Now Sri Ramakrishna saw one of these floating bridges across the Ganga. And he is the master of examples. He's a master of examples. Whatever he sees, immediately from that, he will find out some wonderful example with which he can explain a profound truth in a very simple language. So what he's saying our condition is just like that bridge. That these so many boats have been tied together and they have been anchored by so many innumerable chains. They are all anchored to the shore. And he's saying, you go and cut one of those chains, nothing happens. There are so many chains to keep it intact there. So that's our personality. In our spiritual life, we say that, what you say, this vairagya, renunciation. Is it easy? You will find that it is very difficult. It's almost impossible to get rid of the desire one by one. There are so many. Then what's the way out? Well, for the will, if I just go on breaking the spikes, still the will remains intact because there are innumerable such spikes. But if I get rid of the hub, then what happens? The entire will collapse because all the spikes are linked to that hub. So that's what is the aim of our entire spiritual journey. Two things, only two things. That some desires have already manifested that doesn't allow me to keep my mind calm. If I cannot keep my mind calm, the question of contemplation doesn't come. So I have to take care of my vyakta vasana, which has already manifested. To a certain extent, I have to attenuate it. I have to reduce its force by vairagya. There I take resolution. Okay. Let me discipline my mind, but this is just a preliminary practice. That if you just think vairagya is sufficient, no. Abhyasa. Something I have to practice. When I have calmed down my mind by taking care of the manifested desire to a certain extent, now to get rid of the hub, I have to constantly go on contemplating on a particular idea which can help me to get rid of the hub. So what I am doing, I am creating a new samskara. Whatever you go on repeating in your mind, that creates a new samskara. So what is the new samskara? This is the new samskara. Yat karoshi, yadashnashi, yajjuhasi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. That everything is an offering to the divine. I never forget the divine in my life. When I am meditating, when I am meditating, of course I am thinking of my Lord. But it doesn't end there. My meditation doesn't end in the asana, in the seat in which I am sitting for my meditation. It doesn't end there. When I get up, my meditation continues. Throughout the day, I am practicing the presence of divine in my life. If you have gone through some of these classics, the practice of the presence of God by Brother Lawrence. Oh, what a wonderful book. He was a very simple monk. He never went for education, higher education. He was just an ordinary soldier. You know, the short-term services in soldier, even in the olden days, it used to be there. Now, for the soldier, if you get a bit old, then it's not possible for you to maintain that same valor, the strength, and you have to retire quite early. So he had to retire quite early, and then he became a monk, Brother Lawrence. Now, as he had no very high education, so the question of this giving sermons and other things there was no such question. So he was given some very humble jobs. One of his main job was to clean the dishes. That in the monastery, that so every day, whatever after the cooking food, there's having food. So his practice was what? That when he will just meticulously wash the dishes with the idea that the divine is, the church after all represents the divine. He is there everywhere in the church. He is palpably present there. His presence is felt everywhere. Whatever I am doing it as an offering to the divine. And in his old age, he was a venerated monk. This all used to come to him for this simple instruction. And there are few letters which has been preserved. And those letters are actually this book, where the central theme is that whatever you are doing, do it for the love of God, knowing that He is present with you. He is a living present. He is not just a symbol. He is a living present, and whatever you are doing, small job, whatever you are doing, do it always with that idea, with that awareness that I am doing it as an offering to the divine. That transforms your entire life into an unceasing worship. Then what happens? A wonderful thing is happening. You are creating a new samskara. A new samskara. What's that? God is, I am. We are eternally related. This life is just a journey, it's not a destination. Whatever I am doing just to substantiate the fact that I am in eternal presence with Him. He has kept me in this state where I am supposed to take care of certain responsibilities, but I don't forget that eternal relationship. He is, I am. He is eternal, I am eternal. And just I am in eternal relationship with Him, communion with Him. Whatever state I may be, I am after all in communion with Him. So this is the idea what is doing. Subconsciously this is a new samskara you are creating. But this samskara is just like Kalidas. The Kalidas, why he was considered as a fool at the beginning. Of course later he became a scholar. To take revenge against the princes, they were in search of these people were in search of a fool. Now how to find a fool? They found Kalidas sitting on the branch of a tree and cutting the same branch, isn't it? So in the spiritual journey also we are creating this new samskara. That's the Kalidas. Why you know? Now you are, after all, it is the ego with which all the samskaras are related. This also is, you are creating a new samskara which is again related to this ego. When I say, as long as I am not illumined, I have not gone to the spiritual illumination, it's just a concept. God is, I am, we are in eternal relationship. Someone has said me, some realized soul has said me, I have believed, and I have created this new samskara by constantly thinking. That also is related to this ego. But very interesting. Once this samskara is creating, this is just like Kalidasa cutting the same branch. The ego with which this is connected, I am now constantly axing that ego itself, hammering that ego itself. Idea of ego is what? I am this limited body-mind complex which was born at certain point of time, which is going to die at certain point of time, which is going through this transformation. That's what idea I have. But when I am constantly thinking that this is an eternal journey, I am with the divine, at present He has kept me in this situation, I am doing everything, but I am never forgetful about the awareness of the divine. So this new samskara is just like hammering on the ego itself from which it has been generated. Now when this samskara becomes very, very intense, effective by your practice, because anya vacha vimunchate, your practice has made you perfect. Through practice, now you can keep your mind in this thought alone. Every other thought has fallen off. And you are hammering on the ego. Then at last, the ego falls off. The hub has fallen off. And then what happens? All this, you need not have to think of getting rid of all the samskaras one by one. They all collapse together, taking you to that highest spiritual realization. So you will find now this verse speaks of the sanam bonam of the entire spiritual practice, nothing else. It's very easier said than done. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, tablar bol mukhe bola sahoj, hate ana kothin. That it's when you are playing tabla, the teacher may just recite the bowl, the rhyme of the tabla, and you memorize it just in 1 minute. And then he says, now bring it in your hands, practice. It may take months. So it's very easy to say, but to bring in practice is not easy. But that's the thing we have to do. It has been told here. This constant, this practice at last can help us. Now, you know, that as we said, this Ramakrishna is the master of examples. This example which we gave so many times, that the real renunciation happens all at once. It doesn't happen little by little. It doesn't happen little by little, all at once. So he used to that story which we say again and again, that very funny story, that a villager one day was going to have a dip in the village pond after throughout the day's work, that he will go to the village pond, have a dip, and then come back, have his lunch. Now, as he was leaving, he was just wearing a loincloth, and another towel was just on his shoulder. Nothing else he was wearing. He was about to move out, and his wife suddenly called him back and said, "See, our neighbor has developed tremendous renunciation. You are so attached. But he has developed renunciation." He asked, "What have you seen in him that makes you feel he has developed renunciation?" "Well, he has 12 wives, and he is renouncing them one by one." And this man, that as sometimes we'll find wisdom comes in a flash. So for him also, it came in a flash. He said, "You are a fool. Can renunciation happen little by little, in installments? It has to come in one go. Do you want to see what renunciation is?" And he left. He went. Wife thought he went for a shower. He didn't come back for hours together. He didn't come back. Days passed, months passed. No one could see him ever. So the moment that renunciation came, he never came back to pack his things and all. Just left once for all. This is the wonderful example which Sri Ramakrishna is giving in the form of parable. So this is the thing which is spoken of here. So when it happens in one go. And for that, this is the practice. Yat karoshi, yadasnashi, yajjuhosi, dadasi yat. Yat tapasvasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. So then the result of such endeavor, that as we were saying, that what happens in the 28th verse that is been spoken of. The 9th chapter, 28th verse. Shubha shubha falai revam mokshase karma bandhanai sannyasa yoga yuktatma vimukta mam upashyasi. Shubha shubha falai revam. So each and every action, there is no action in this world which is 100% punya. It is pure. It is good. There is no evil in it. It can never be. All the karmas are having mixed result. And I just say that, okay, that I am feeding the poor. There are thousands of people are there sitting, and it is I who have contributed and feeding. I think, it's all punya. But if I had really the eye to see, what I would have seen, that the plants, the vegetation, everything has life. The plant, the vegetation, the fruits, the crops, if they had their voice, they will say, what a mass, what is the Holocaust has been done. So much of vegetation we have just used, killing one form of life to feed another form of life, isn't it? Nothing else. There cannot be any work. Even when I'm just in, there are certain religious sects, they take prayopavesanam. Prayopavesanam means, till I die, I won't have food. I won't take food. That I want to practice pure ahimsa, because as long as I live, if I take food, I have to kill others. So what they sit for, this fast until death. They will take that vow. But very interesting. As long as they are alive, even the single breath they are taking, they are killing. That when we are alive, an interesting thing, when I am alive, my body is not decomposing. The moment a person dies, within few hours, his body starts decomposing. What's happening? Even if I am not taking food, the antigens, antibodies in my body, they are like the soldiers constantly fighting with the microbes of life form, killing them to stop this decomposition. There cannot, even a single breath you cannot take where the result is all good. Shubha shubhai falai revam mukshase karma bandhane. Whenever there is an action, karma, the results, it is bound to have good as well as evil. There cannot be pure this good or pure evil. There cannot be. And as a result, what happens with the good and the evil? The results also we are accruing. And these results again will result in another birth. And it is an endless process. So that's what is meant. This by dedicating, now what? Sannyasa yoga yuktatma. By renouncing renouncing not actions. As we said, even if you stop taking food, still you're killing and these microbes with your help of antigens, antibodies. They're killing. I cannot stop the results of that action. It's still going on. So sannyasa doesn't mean stopping your action. What is sannyasa? Yoga, when you are in union with the divine. That's the real sannyasa. My mind is always in communion with the divine. And then, even if my actions goes on, then it is sannyasa. Ishware anurag vishaye virag. That I am indifferent to the worldly way of life. I have transformed my attitude in such a way that this attitudinal correction, we have changed my attitude in such a way that the same actions are going on, but with a total different paradigm, total different orientation. So this is the real sannyasa which has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. Samyak rupenyasa, that real renunciation is this, changing the orientation. And that alone can take you to that, what you said, it can help you to attain me, attain that yourself, attain the Paramatma. This, by getting rid of the results of your actions, you can be freed and get united with the divine. So this is the thing, just if you now relate to that previous verse, the discussion in the previous verse, the same thing which we are doing, that all the results are bound to have Shubha, Ashubha. Very nicely in the Yoga Sutra, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, very nicely, Ahimsa has been defined. That Ahimsa means, that in the Sutra, it is just mentioned Ahimsa, that I should not harm anyone by my words, by my deeds, by my action. In no way I should harm others. And then in the commentary, Vyasa Bhashya, the Vyasa's commentary, very nicely is saying, it is impossible in this life. That all my actions are bound to harm others. Then what real ahimsa means? Very nicely, Vyasa is saying, that if I have to be born, I have to do some evil acts. I will be killing others. And many people are saying that, okay, that lower form of life, they don't have that type of consciousness. Actually, for the children, we did that the hidden life of the tree, where we saw that how conscious they are. That a tree, when it is being mauled, when say giraffe is just munching on its leaves, it not only is trying to protect itself, it sends the message which goes to 100 meters. All the trees will start producing toxin, so that giraffe knows very well. It will, after munching a tree, it will run 100 meters away to munch the next tree, because it knows all the trees in the 100 meter have already ejected some toxin. If they take, so they will get, their body will be just getting that way, the toxins, they will be harmed that way. So they will run to the 100 meters distance to munch on this new leaves there, because the instruction has gone up to 100 meters. So just see, their communication is a bit different, but they are communicating. They also want to save themselves. They're screaming. Not only this 100 meters, even if you shout at a full of a voice, most probably 100 meters at a distance people may not hear. But these trees know their way of screaming. They scream, save yourself. So what has happened actually? That as I may be very much, that I may be having a sense of this ahimsa, and that ahimsa, I don't want to harm others. But the Mother Nature, what he has done, he has masked. Nothing else. Everyone, even a small creature, when you are harming, it is conscious, it screams. Only thing you have masked it. The nature has masked. How it is masked, if someone is going to be hanged, they put a mask on him. You know why they put the mask? Because the one who is hanging, those who are witnessing, by seeing his facial expressions, you get traumatized. Those who are executing, they themselves get traumatized. Even the extremists, we think they are cruel, but their heart is also getting affected. They also will mask the person. And then only they will behead or whatever they do. Why they do that covering? that I shouldn't see his reactions because it affects me. So the mother nature, what it has done, we have to take something for our livelihood, and whatever we are feeding on that screams, if we can see that, we won't be feeling like having food. So the mother nature has masked it in such a way that I don't see. So now the question of vegetarian, non-vegetarian, everything is just bogus that way. For your necessity, whatever is available, you have to take it as much your that appetite requires. Your for your own sustenance, whatever is required, that much you take. If you are going for excess, of course, that is extreme violence. I have to kill for my existence. I have to kill, so I do take. And then this in Yoga Sutra, what they say is very nice. That Vyasa's Bhashya, that real ahimsa, what it is, that lead the life in such a way that for you need not have to be born again, because the moment you come to this physical body, you have to kill others. For that, yat karoshi yadashnashi. That's the main thing. When someone is saying that such and such fellow, someone came to Ramakrishna and such and such fellow has stopped taking betel leaves and fish. Ramakrishna directly, as just a simple word, is saying, Pan mach tag noy, kamini kanchun tagi tag. Just simple, that's the thing. That's the main thing. That for my food I am not bothered. I don't make the secondary thing the primary. Whatever is as per my birth, as per my the way I have been brought up, whatever food habit I have, I take it in a very, very, controlled manner, just to appease my hunger. That I don't go for the huge treats, whether it is a vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food. A glutton is the most violent person. If I'm having to eat just for my balanced diet, okay, now live the life in God consciousness. Make this thing a secondary. Live in God consciousness so that you can get rid of that ego, asmita, which has actually is holding all the samskaras. Once you get rid, all fall off together. Not to bring you again to this mortal plane of existence, you get liberated. And then alone you are practicing ahimsa. And then alone you can get rid of shubha, ashubha, phala. Otherwise, in no way. However, all those secondary details, we make them primary, we still are under the domain of shubha, shubhai, phala, revam. You cannot get rid of them. You may advertise, you may just go on saying, I am holier than you. In this entire world, all the religions, even we are getting, intoxicated with that holier than thou attitude, nothing else. My practice, my way of believing, my belief, my practices, that makes me holy and I am holier than thou. Let us try to understand the crux of the religion, to be more and more oriented, this divine oriented, to get rid of this ego. As Sri Ramakrishna in one word has said it very nicely. When someone came and asked him, when shall I be free? Ami mukto hobo kobe. Sri Ramakrishna's one line answer, Ami jabe jobe. When I cease to be. That's the only thing. The entire spiritual practice is to get rid of that I, nothing else. Whether a jnani or a bhakta, jnani also is doing the same thing. I am the Atman, I am the Brahman. That's what he is contemplating. He is hammering the ego. I am a devotee of God. What it means? God is, I am. With both are Trikalavadita Satya. Nothing can affect us. Our only purpose is to be in communion with the divine. Again, you are hammering that ego out. To get established in a state where their ego is not there. And the question of this gravitating down to this physical plane of existence, which is permeated with evil. You cannot get rid of evil here. So that's the only way out. And that's how's the way out of this Shubha and Ashubha? Moksha se karma bandhanai, sannyasa yoga yuktatma, vimukta mam upashyasi. That what I have said in the previous verse, yat karoshi yadasnashi, yajju hosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. If you can do that, then only you can get rid of all this Shubha, Ashubha, Phala. This bondage of this good and bad results, with your mind attached to me, yoga yuktatma, with your mind attached to me, and that alone speaks of renunciation. When you are attached to me, automatically you have renounced the other worldly engagements. So this renunciation by being attached to me, that means sannyasa yoga yuktatma, that alone you will be liberated, vimukta, and you will reach me. That's the only way. There is no other way. So that's the thing which Bhagavan is saying in the 28th verse. And then 29th verse, the Lord is saying that in this entire process, don't think I have any bias. That if you think of me, I have a special love for you. No. I am very impartial. It is your attitude towards me that decides the result. I don't get directly involved in it. It's just like a fire. A fire is burning. If you are near it, you feel the heat. If you are away from it, you don't feel the heat. As simple as that. And that's what Bhagavan is saying in the 29th verse, that he is utterly impartial. He neither favors nor rejects anyone. He simply reciprocates the attitude we hold towards him. So what is saying? Samohang sarva bhuteshu name deshvasti na priyah ye bhajanti tumang bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. Samoham, sama aham sarva bhuteshu. That I am equally disposed to all living beings. I am neither inimical, deshva means inimical, priya, neither I am favorable to someone, neither I am inimical, nor I have some partiality towards someone. But the devotee who worship me, so that the one who worships me, ye bhajanti tumang bhaktya, ye bhajanti, the one who worships me, maite teshu chapyaham. So they reside in me and I reside in them. So this is the idea that we are saying, that Sri Ramakrishna is to give a very nice example, that God's grace is always there. It's always blowing. Kripar batash boiche. That's the idea. But if you haven't unfurled your sail, you cannot get the favor of the favorable wind. You are on a boat, it is you who have to unfurl the sail. If you don't unfurl the sail, you don't get the favorable wind for your crossing the river, for going across the river. So you have to unfurl. So whatever we spoken of in the 27th verse, that is the unfurling of your sail. Once you do that, the wind is always there. It doesn't favor anyone. It doesn't in any way is inimical towards anyone. It is always there. Just we have to unfurl our sail. And this kripar batash boiche jore pal tule dere. This unfurling the sail, what actually in spiritual life means? The 27th verse. Yat karoshi, yadashnashi, yajjuhosi, dadasiyat, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. That is the unfurling. If you do that, then what happens? It speaks of that you are in me. And I am in you. So these two words are wonderful. You are in me. What it means? See, I have dedicated my entire mind to practice the presence of the divine in each and every activity, each and every thought of my life. And that way I am in him. But the Lord is saying that I am in the Lord, but the Lord is in me. What happens? With this practice, when at last it has been possible for me to get rid of the ego. The ego has fallen off. Then what happens? When the ego falls off, that I get permeated by the divine. That was the barricade. That was not allowing. That, as Sri Ramakrishna says very nicely, Kripar batas to sab shomoy boiche. The wind of grace is always blowing. Ami roop devale dhakka lege fire যায় সেটা. The ego is like a wall on which it is getting obstructed. It cannot pass through. The moment that falls off, what happens? You get permeated by the divine. It's when I am thinking of the divine constantly, that practice speaks of I am in the divine. But at last, when I, with this practice, at last am able to get rid of this barricade falls off. then I am flooded. I am flooded with the presence of the divine. This falling off of this barricade, Sri Ramakrishna is saying, is just like a striking of the matchstick. When in a dark room which was dark for thousands of years, you enter with a matchbox and a matchstick, you strike it. Sri Ramakrishna is saying, will it take another 1,000 years to get lighted? No. Immediately it gets lighted. So the moment with our practice we can get rid of the ego, the spiritual flooding happens immediately. And that's being indicated by Teshu Chapyaham, that I, the God also starts living in us. He permeates us because we have removed that blockage, that obstruction. In the Yoga Sutra also they give that example of a farmer, that there is no need for the farmer to physically bring the water from the river to his field, to his to cultivate the land. He didn't have to bring physically the water. What he has to do, there is a dam on the side of the river. He just creates a hole in the dam, and the water will be just flooding it will be cultivating his land. So like that, the divine is always there. This mud dam is our ego. We just have to create a hole there, and then the divine permeates us. So now you will understand that when Sri Swamiji is defining religion as, religion is the manifestation of divinity. Manifestation of the divinity is already there. There is a blockage, and that blockage is the ego. That when it is removed, then the divinity manifests. And that is being indicated by the word God resides in us. We reside in God, and then God resides in us. It doesn't speak of any partiality. It's just the attitude with which we have approached the divine. And our attitude has helped us to get rid of the barricade which we have created. It's we who have created because of our ignorance from the ego. This barricade we have created, and we remove it. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita you will never hear the word prapti. Prapti means to attain something which I don't have. In Gita, these terminologies are very, very interesting. You will find the Sanskrit words have been used a bit differently. Sometimes with a prefix, its meaning changes. Sometimes without the prefix, its meaning changes. So in Bhagavad Gita, we will find the word apti has been used, not prapti. Apti. Apti means I attained something about which I was forgetful. It was with me. I was forgetful about it. And now, as the ignorance falls off, I find, it was always with me. I've never lost it. I was just forgetful about it. There's Chamikar Nyaya. In Sanskrit, these are the Nyaya, these logics they use. That a lady, she was very busy with her household work, and she was wearing a necklace, and that got hidden by the sari. The sari she was wearing, the wrapping. In the wrap of the sari, it got hidden, and suddenly she searched, the necklace is not there. And she was frantically in search of that necklace. Where my necklace has gone? Where my necklace has gone? It has lost. I must have kept it somewhere. I don't know where I've kept it. I don't find it. And then some other lady sees something is just shining. That from the fold of the wrap, something is shining. And then he comes and removes that it's already here. So that's the thing. That someone has to come and just show that it's already there. We haven't lost it. And this is called apti. So here also this is the process of apti, to attain the thing. I am forgetful about it, to again be aware of the thing of which I was forgetful. And that's what the entire spiritual journey speaks of. And that's been spoken of in this 29th verse. So we will find this is very interesting, the assertion of Bhagavan coming in the next few verses before this chapter ends, that we will again take up in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.